All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the new Great One fallow deer. It's coming up. It's coming with the Australia DLC, brand new map, brand new Great One coming to the game very shortly. Probably going to happen in, I would say, probably mid to late July. We will get the release for these things. But I needed to make a video talking about all the different variations, the fur variations, as well as the different antler variations and configurations for this Great One fallow. I'm going to talk about my favorite ones, my least favorite ones, what I like, what I dislike. But I'm also going to talk about something that Jaxie said in the stream last week that I haven't seen anybody talk about. He did say something about only being able to show the base variations for these racks and that there are other variations that the community will have to find. So I wonder if that means that there are actually different variations of these 4 racks that we were shown, and maybe we've only seen one variation of each. I'll run that clip in a little bit, but firstly, let's just get into all the variations. I'll talk about my least favorite and my favorite ones. So let's just jump into that. So we've got the fabled golden, the fabled mocha, the fabled hooded, the fabled silver, and the fabled painted. So let's talk about each a little bit. The first one that he showed in that screen was the fabled golden. This is a really cool variation. It's kind of probably the least exciting one in my opinion. It's got a dark fur going on, and it's got some lighter kind of highlights on the fur as well. It's got some orange, it's got a little bit of white on the neck. It's actually really nice. It's very subtle. As far as what I've seen people saying about their favorites, I don't think I've seen anybody say that the golden is their favorite yet. The other 4 are just so incredibly appealing that I think those are just more popular. So the second one I want to talk about is the fabled hooded. This is a sleeper pick. This is actually a really beautiful variation. Some really good artistic work went into this. I love the white streaks on the side, the white on the neck, the highlight on the side of the fallow where it's really bright, and then everything else being really dark. The contrast on the fabled hooded, I think this is a really underrated variation that not a lot of people are talking about, but the fabled hooded is really growing on me the more that I look at it, the more that I watch the footage back of the fabled hooded. And then we move to the fabled painted. This is a big favorite amongst the community. When I first saw it, I loved it. I thought it was very, very stunning at first, but the thing is, the more I look at it, the more I just see a common fallow deer with some brown splotched on it, and it's only like one shade of brown. It's very monotone, the brown that is on top of the common fur type. Unfortunately, all I see when I look at the fabled painted is a common fallow with some brown, one shade of brown splotched on top of it. I think they could have done more here, maybe add a little bit of contrast to the brown that was put over top of the common, maybe add some little streaks, you know, the artistic stuff that they're doing on these other variations maybe could have been applied to the fabled painted, and maybe I would have liked it more. But it is a really cool idea. I love the idea. I love the 2 sides of the face being one side orange, one side dark brown. I think that's a really nice touch, but I just think it could have had a couple more layers of work done to it to make it kind of pop just a little bit more. And then we're going to move into my 2 favorites, the fabled mocha. Love the fabled mocha. There's just something about the contrast on it with the lighter brown and the orange going to the darker brown. The blending, I just love the artistic nature to this variation. I love the way that the 2 colors, the 2 shades are kind of blended together. You've got some spots and things like that. It just looks really, really crisp, really, really well done. You can tell that some really nice artistry went into that one as well. And then my favorite being the fabled silver. I think this is the most artistic one. The contrast just absolutely pops, and it's just super, super beautiful. It's got the spots, it's got some streaks on it, it's got a ton of character. It almost looks like it's kind of aged, and it goes, you know, all the way from a bright white to almost jet black on the back legs. So some awesome contrast. This one is the one that stands out the most to me. I love it. This is definitely my favorite of the furs, but I actually love all of them, all 5 of them. I love all 5 of the variations. I think they did a great job. I just would have really liked to see a little bit more done to that fabled painted. That might have been my favorite if they'd done a little bit more to it. So let's get into talking about these 4 racks. And before I do that, I will play the clip of what Jaxie said about the possibility maybe of some other variations of these racks. So take a listen, you guys.
Now, I don't have the ability to do anything but their default racks. There are other versions, and that is going to have to be discovered through the community.
So whether that meant that maybe he thought he was only going to be able to show us that one big typical rack, and he wasn't thinking that he was going to be able to show us the other 3, I'm not sure, but it really does kind of sound like there might be variations of these racks. Maybe there isn't just one of each, like we've seen, you know, with the moose, for example. But maybe, you know, maybe there's more variations. Whether or not we can have split racks is unknown. Whether or not we can have 50-50 racks, different antlers on each side. I'm imagining that's probably going to be a thing like it was for the moose and for the whitetail as well. But yeah, so we've got the wide rack, otherwise otherwise known as the Irish elk rack, but otherwise known as, more importantly, the KC rack. Everyone's calling this one the KC rack. I have no idea why. It has nothing. Of course, that has nothing to do with me, right? I wouldn't have had anything to do with that. But everyone's calling it the KC rack, and so basically, the Irish elk looking rack. It is known as the KC rack around the community, widely known. See what I did there? As the KC rack amongst the community. I love this rack. This is my favorite. When he showed it on the stream, I was just mind blown. It really stood out to me. It made me really, really excited. He showed it on the painted variation, and I just love it, man. It's obviously an ode, a little bit of a nod to the Irish elk. The fallow deer are the closest descendants right now to the Irish elk, as far as descendants of animals that still exist that aren't extinct. The Irish elk obviously has been extinct for thousands and thousands of years, but this is clearly paying some homage to the Irish elk, and I just absolutely love it. I love the width. I love the big spiky tines, how much it just kind of looks like a small Irish elk, and that's the one that I want the most. And then we've got the thin rack, otherwise known as the saw rack. I kind of liked this one when he showed it, but the more I look at it, the more I just think it's very super thin and narrow. I think maybe if the paddles would have been just a little bit wider, maybe a little more going on the bez tines and the brow tines, maybe a little more going on there, I think it might have been a little bit more appealing, but I just find it looks kind of small, and not a huge fan. Same thing with the rack variations for me, though. I like all four of them. I don't dislike any of them, but the thin rack, not my favorite. And that brings us to the big rack, otherwise known as the typical rack. This is pretty awesome. I like this. I think it could have been a little bit bigger. It really doesn't look too much bigger than, like the 276 diamond that I have. The max scoring diamonds, I think, are a little bit actually wider than this one. I love what it's got going on in the back with like the moose front shovels on the back of the rack. I do think that looks pretty cool. Again, maybe a little bit more on the brow tines, but this is a very cool rack. I would love to get this rack. I would not have anything against putting that rack in my lodge. And then we've got the smooth rack, otherwise known as the spoon rack. This is probably my least favorite. To me, I can't stop seeing a pair of tongs. I feel like I'm making a salad or something every time I look at it. Smooth rack, otherwise known as the spoon rack. It's pretty cool. I do like the big kind of bez tines that kind of pop out in the front. It looks really cool. And again, I would not be at all upset about seeing one of these spawn in front of me and putting this in my lodge. But yeah, that's pretty much it, you guys. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. Just go over all of the variations of the furs and the racks. Of course, this great one fallow deer is going to come out at the same time as Australia. We'll be able to find it on Hirschfelden, T. Awaroa, as well as, of course, Australia. Where are you guys going to grind it? I haven't really decided yet. I really want to do it in Australia. If Australia turns out to be a good map for grinding fallow, I am 100% going to go all in on Australia. Even if it's not the best for grinding fallow, I want this grind to be as fun and as interesting as possible. I'm not really looking for the fastest grind. I'm not trying to speed run Call of the Wild. You guys know that. So T. Awaroa, of course, that's going to be the easiest grind. That's going to be the fastest. We're probably going to see a lot of great one fallow coming out of T. Awaroa before we see them from anywhere else. Hopefully they don't oversaturate the community. Hopefully we don't get bored of them too quick, and hopefully they don't turn into the next red deer great one or anything like that. But yeah, where are you guys going to grind? What's your favorite fur variation? What's your favorite rack variation? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Drop a sub if you haven't already done that. We're getting very close to 50,000 subscribers. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I will see you guys in the next one.